Come on.
Hey,
Hello. Do you hear me?
what's going on?
Just a second. Okay. Say something.
Something. How's it going?
Nice. Okay. Sorry, I'm switching back and forth. There's like a recording screen, and then there's the U screen. Oh shoot! Get out of there. Est-ce que j'avais branché les écouteurs? Non, ça. Entrée micro. Okay. Sorry, there's a French thing asking me in the corner. Can I change my size? You know, it doesn't matter. I just want to get rid of the thing in front of your face.
My French fries are done.
Oh, there it is. Okay. I have like a, what do you call it? A lapel micro or a tie microphone or, I don't know what you call it. I think this is going to work to pick up sound. Otherwise, I'm going to record the sound with my phone at the same time. And in case my microphone doesn't work, I'm going to have a backup sound that we can put behind the video. You know what I mean? But there was... Okay, I'm going to try and keep it simple, though. I remember we had a way of almost sharing a live video together, but I hesitate with playing with that thing. You remember? You remember how when I love Sean, but how he would play with some...
I can't hear anything anymore now. What happened?
You can't hear me? Oh, shit. Can you hear me? You can't hear
I
me?
lost all the sound.
Oh, damn. Can you hear me now?
Now I got you. Okay.
Oh, darn. Okay, I was telling you a whole thing about I bought this new microphone. Look at this thing.
And now I don't know if it works.
Apparently it doesn't fucking work. Goddamn piece of shit. Okay, I told you a whole story. You didn't even hear me?
No.
Damn, I was telling you a whole story. Damn. Okay, I was telling you a story about my microphone and how I was going to record a second track of sound just to make sure, because I was saying how you remember in the days of our technical troubles every freaking time? You remember.
It doesn't seem like you're over.
Oh, I was telling a whole story. I thought you were listening to my story. Okay, no problem. No, there was no story. Okay. So what I'm saying was that the video seems to be recording. I'm going to check one more time because it does this. You'll see, and maybe you saw in the other video, when I flip back to the screen where it shows me the video recorder. Maybe I should put that in full screen too. I don't know. Okay, wow, it's really weird. It's like a world within world kind of screen. Anyways, but I know that it's recording our video. I'm pretty sure after our last test.
Okay.
What happens if you turn your phone sideways? Because you're vertical mode. Can you put yourself in horizontal mode, do you think? Maybe that works better. Like I'm kind of a mini screen in your corner.
I just changed it on my phone.
Yeah, it works on, what do you call it? Portrait view. But what I was saying in my big speech was that maybe we should keep it simple like that, because I remember we saw there was some possibility of like screen share. You remember? Or there was like,
yes.
I could share a video with you. We can maybe try that, but I have some lights up here too. But I don't know if we should. I don't know. I don't know if I should risk it to lose like what we have. Right? Like I think we have video right now, and we have audio, so we're good. Yeah. Okay, so that was my whole intro. But I also asked like, how you doing?
1 second. I'm doing pretty well. How about you?
No, not bad, not bad. So your brother did a late shift, you said, yeah?
Yeah, he did. No, he actually took over for one of someone who didn't even call out. They just didn't show up to work today.
Well, I mean, it was like we were saying, even in the public service of Canada, where the job is it's not quite as guaranteed as like, you know how the professor at university, they call it tenureship? And it's like you can't get fired for anything once you have that job. You know what I mean?
Right.
They talk about it sometimes. Like university professors can say just about anything they want. Some of them might get fired, but I think it's like 1%.
That's the problem. Because sometimes if you have a bad teacher that can't or doesn't want to teach very well, they can't get fired. They have there's no accountability.
Oh, 100%. And I'm 100% in agreement with you with that. Like you have to have some sort of accountability, some sort of fear, because otherwise, you know, you don't motivate people properly. But what my point was, whatever the percentage is, like the percentage of professors, say it's 1% are able to be fired. And it's only the ones that do the most, what is the word? Egregious errors that are able to be fired. Well, if you're a professor, all you have to do in your mind is like, let's be one of the 99% best. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And in any job, even where I'm working, where it's not tenureship like at the university, but working for the civil service, it's a good job with good job security, which is why I keep it for my kid, of course. But if it's 10% maybe we're now at 10% and 90%. You know, when cutbacks come, if you're one of the worst 10%, you're going to get fired. They're looking to cut dead wood. It's not the same as in university, but you know what I mean? So what I have to do is show myself better than 10%. It's not a big bar to follow. But whatever your job, and this is what my father taught me, it was like, make sure you're amongst those ones in front, like your brother does. If he steps up at that time, then when there's cutbacks, he's going to be remembered. And in this time of cutbacks, wow, that's like a powerful quality. You know, when COVID hit, the dead wood got cut first. And then unfortunately, some good wood got cut because of economic cutbacks and COVID lockdowns. You know what I'm saying, though? But in terms of being an employee, your brother's doing exactly the right thing. It's hard on you, I understand. Or on you both, but it's the way that he's going to survive this. It's the way that we're going to survive this, right?
We do what we do for each other. What he can't or won't do, I'll do.
You have a good relationship, yeah.
We only have each other.
And you do 100%, yeah. Okay, before we get started, like I understand it's actually recording already, but I was actually watching a couple of debates, and I understand that you're a little bit hesitant about showing up. There's a lot of people, and I know you watch YouTube things too, these debates. Some people show up with whatever they want. They can show up with a cartoon. They can show up with whatever they want on a recorded video. Like, once I record this screen, I can cut out just my video, or neither of us. We can, if you want to go cartoon, I think I'm going to go cartoon too. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to do that kind of video, and not where we move, I think the animation, I did that one little time. It's actually pretty complicated as I understand it. But I mean, we could do a cartoon picture of ourselves, or, you know what I mean? Having a discussion.
Yep.
That's fine with me too.
I don't care. As long as we have a discussion, I don't care.
I love the discussion, but I understand, and you've said it a couple times, and I don't want you to feel like shitty about it, because I love the discussion, and the words are what's important. And if you're feeling like you don't want to go on because of the visual, like, again, for me, the words are what's important. And that's what I've loved so far, but you know what I mean?
You know what? If you make me too cartoon, I'll end up being better looking, so I don't care.
Like, it might be just more comfortable. Maybe we're going to be more comfortable in our skin. You can point the camera at your ceiling. That's what's beautiful. You don't have to be, because what I like, and I've done a bunch of group meetings, I actually like, there's some Zoom meetings, you know what I mean? You can turn yourself off. And I'm going to turn myself off, because if I'm looking at myself, I'm not listening also. And that's a problem I have with just conversations in general. You know what I mean?
Getting back to the teacher thing now, I'm assuming now you're not forced to become a teacher. So if you want to become a teacher and you want that tenure, I would think you want to be the best teacher you can possibly be until the day you retire.
I believe, and because I came from, I came from a family which saw the civil service as perhaps a negative thing. You know what I mean? Okay, like it was kind of like, those civil servants, they get their, it's not tenureship, but again, maybe it's not 90%, but say it's 80%. Again, only 20% of the people are going to be fired in the worst recession that we can understand. That's a pretty solid job, right? And so they see it as a motivation to laziness. Like someone could be doing this 75% of the time and working 25% of the time and keeping their job. So that's what they see as the motivation. So when I come into the civil service, I feel like, shit, I got to go home and talk to my family. I got to be proving to them I'm doing well with their tax dollars. You know what I mean? And so that's my motivation, to be one of the good ones. There are civil servants that are in the top freaking 10%. We have at Statistics Canada, well, I shouldn't probably say my name of my company or whatever. Anyways, at where I work, we have some of the most powerful supercomputers in the world. Like Google kicks our ass, of course. Some of these big tech, Facebook, they're dealing with billions and billions of units at a time. But we've developed a system, and apparently it's with partnership with, I think it's Lockheed Martin. What's the company in the States? Lockheed.
That's Lockheed Martin, yeah.
Lockheed Martin, yeah. Like jets, they make jets and stuff.
Yes.
But they helped us make our supercomputer, which is a whole bunch of smaller computers linked together in a very intelligent fashion. So it makes one big supercomputer that I was able to show that I could do a calculation 300 times faster. I was so lucky to be one of the initial users on what we called the baby grid. And then the mama grid came involved, but the baby grid was 300 or 350. I think it was 350. And I was able to show that my program could run 300 times faster on the baby grid than on my computer, which was an enormous, and then the mama grid came in. And I was just doing testing. I was one of these, it was really lucky what I had as a job, but it showed that we had one of those powerful supercomputers. And, again, they upgraded. Anyways, but it's really fun. But wait, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, being lazy. A lazy professor. A lazy professor. But the motivation, I totally agree with you behind that. Like, what is your motivation for doing good? If you never lose your job, right? Pardon?
You have to have good work ethic. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of people say you have good work ethic.
Yeah. You have to start with that philosophy behind it. Otherwise, the system falls to shit. Like you have to develop, if the government is ever to work, and maybe we get into that before we get into politics. I haven't actually checked the results. I was so fucking busy too.
You could actually fold that into politics.
I think so.
Because politicians don't work all the time. Yep. They only work for their own self-interest. At least we have that phenomenon in the United States, where a lot of politicians are on for themselves. They're not working for the people anymore. Mm-hmm. And whatever work they do is to enrich themselves and not anybody else. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that with a lot of politicians who became millionaires after they were elected. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't care if Trump was a billionaire before he became elected. He lost money being a politician. Mm-hmm. He lost approximately $2 billion in wealth. But when Bloomberg was mayor of New York City, he entered being worth $5 billion, and when he left 12 years later, he was worth over $55 billion. So where did he get his wealth from? That's the problem.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about him, how his failure in the presidential bid. He spent a shit. Anyway. Sorry. I was thinking about presidential, but you were talking about mayoral. He started with $1 million and he ended up with $55 million. Yeah. I agree with you. And that the fact that he became rich because of being a New York mayor, then he was able to become a presidential candidate. What really bugs me, and there's something the same between the States and Canada in this sense. You have these like quasi-royal families. You know what I mean? Like we say Clinton, Kennedy. In Canada, we might say Trudeau. Even one of the former prime ministers was Martin, was a former prime minister, and his father was already a politician, like a famous politician in the previous generation. We had one of those outsiders that came in. His name was Jean Chrétien. Maybe you remember him, Chrétien. He would have been about the time you were. It was in the mid-90s, I think he came in. Anyways.
I didn't pay attention to politics.
No, but you know what I mean? Like you would have become 20. That was the prime minister in Canada about that time. He was actually a kind of an outsider. And he had polio when he grew up, so he kind of talked kind of funny because half of his face was a bit messed up. But he was Québécois, so he got really along well with the Québécois, but he was this outsider politician. The same thing like you say with Trump. He's an outsider outside of the Clinton family, outside of the Kennedy family, outside of the Bush family. You know, like politicians that get elected one after another, you know what I mean? But what would bother me is if Trump Jr. went, you know, what if the Trump family then becomes another one of these things, right? Like he had his one go, Trump Jr. will have a go at it, or maybe Trump Sr. will have a go at it in 2024. But you know what I mean? Like this might become another one of these oligarchies or one of the big families. You know what I mean?
Well, that's exactly the opposite of what the United States Constitution stands for. No oligarchies, no central power. In any cases, those centralized power.
Yeah, but what about the Kennedy family? How many Kennedys have gone for Senate and this and that and the other thing?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. They're like an oligarchy. You're right. They've had power, yeah.
The Clintons. There was one Clinton, and we almost had Clinton too, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of nepotism, too.
A lot of
nepotism.
And Bloomberg. I mean, you went from mayor to New York. And the other one, too. Rudy Giuliani. He ran for president as well. I mean, it's like mayor to New York to president. That's what I call an oligarchy. That's what it's like. A stepping stone. It's not like he's Mr. and Mrs. Everyman. He went through the steps to become just like every presidential candidate. They were a senator before, or they were this, or they were that. You can't just go from Mr. and Mrs. Everyman to president. Neither in Canada.
Fraser, here's the beauty of the American political system. You don't have to have any type of I lost the word. You don't have any type of experience in politics to run for any position in the body politic. That's why Trump, never being any politician, was able to run for president. The only, as far as president is concerned, the only two things are you have to be 35, and on three things: 35, natural born citizen, American citizen, and lived in the United States continuously for I think it's 20 years, but I'm not quite sure on that.
Okay, but that's
the only two things.
No, and that what he proved, and I thought that was kind of the point you were getting at with the Bloomberg thing, but I think it's a point, like again, it's worth making, is that Bloomberg, what did he spend? Like $500 million or something? How much?
He spent a couple $1 billion running, yeah.
He ran so much money and got like one electoral vote in the freaking whatever.
Do you remember there was a wrestler who became a politician, and I don't know what state it was, Jesse Ventura, remember him?
Yeah. And I mean, what I'm saying is that, like, the point to make is that Trump, he did these, he underspent his opponents regularly. Right? He proved that you don't have... Whoops. Are you still there? Oh, yeah. You hear me?
I'm still here.
Yeah. So he proved that you didn't have to spend $100 billion or whatever, $1 billion or whatever, to run for candidacy. It's still several $million, though, and you have to have that thing. You can't be like Ross Perot tried to do it back in the day. You have to... You do need an establishment just the same behind you. like in Canada, independents, I mean, have fun, but you're probably not going to get elected if you run as an independent or anything other than the two main parties. So
my point being,
yeah, you can technically you can, but you need promotion. Sorry,
President, you're attacking on. My point being was when Jesse Ventura got into politics, he said it only took 6 months to learn how to run the state. That was it. It was the learning. That was the whole learning curve. Okay. 6 months. So it's not like our founding fathers made it difficult. It's the people who are in politics now are making it difficult for everybody else because now there's no term limits as far as in the Senate and the House. Mm. And Nancy Pelosi's had her position, I think, for 40 years now. So my brother wants to know who I'm talking to. So give me a second. If you lose me,
no, I'm still there. Sorry, I muted myself to try and give you. I agree with you though.
No, don't mute yourself.
Like the incumbent has what is it? Statistically, have like a 10 or 15 point advantage, just being the incumbent. So that means whatever new person comes in needs to have like a 10-point boost over the incumbent. Like the incumbent gets an automatic advantage. Technically, and again, it's not anti-democratic. It's just he's known, right? It's what do you want? Do you want what you know? Or do you want the new thing, right? The new thing is unknown. So it's like, are we going to change? Like we were on a certain track. Are we going to change now? That's the unknown. And a certain number of people are just going to vote for that, whatever it is. Even if it's in their own interest, they'll vote against that. So that the incumbent, whether it's Nancy Pelosi or whatever, gets a certain advantage just for being the only name people know on the ballot. Right?
Yeah.
And especially someone in a power position like Nancy Pelosi, like in our state. Yeah.
The home field. Yeah, they have the home field advantage. They know how to run. They know how to run their state to the ground, basically. Mm. She's representative parts of California, and oh god.
Is it on fire now? I don't know.
Almost. There's shit in the street. There's a representative. I can't remember her name. Black girl. The homelessness problem is so bad in her part of California. There's actually people defecating in the street, and they're not allowed to say anything about it.
No, that's something you gotta deal with in your own neighborhood. Like that's the sort of thing that's like it's again these local, and we deal with that in Canada. Is that there's parties that are more anti-federalist and more pro-federalist. And that's like something like you would be more pro-Republican, which is like maybe maybe more powerful. No, maybe not. I don't know if Democrats or Republicans are more, they want centralized power. You know what I mean? In Canada, I think there's parties that are for centralized power and there's other parties that are for more regional power, which like you guys might say states' rights versus central rights. And so in our country, and I think it might be the opposite, is that the more right-wing parties tend to be the ones that don't want those centralized powers.
Centralized power leads to oligarchies and dictatorships, and that's exactly the opposite of what conservatism. Conservatism. If I can get the word out. But it's actually what conservatives are against. Because we don't want... The opposite of actually having a dictatorship is anarchy. We don't want total anarchy, though, but we don't want centralized power either.
Oh, no. And I think, like, where I grew up, it was in the country. I remember there's one story, and maybe I've told it to you before, because I tell it to everybody. But it was this one example of when, like, we're in a farming community. So separated from Calgary or Edmonton in Alberta, where very, very conservative, voting conservative, pro-Trump, they're just very conservative. And, there might be separatist Albertans too. That's where they come from, I'm sure. But one time when I was growing up, there was a neighbor farmer and he had an accident on the farm. Farm accidents are, not uncommon. And he lost a foot. He lost a foot in a farm accident. And so he was up in the hospital. There's a lot of rehabilitation for that. And what happened though in the community was that the other neighbors got together and they would take turns working his fields and seeding his fields and harvesting the fields. And as it is a traditional kind of neighborhood, the wives would get together taking care of meals and whatnot, which is like, it's kind of, if you think about it, communist but on a local level. And that's what it is. It's not letting people like starve in the streets, as you were talking about. It's just terrible. Right. There wasn't a homeless population in the town where I lived. And yeah, maybe some people would escape to the cities or something like that. But anyone that was having a hard time would be put up by someone, would be followed by someone, would never be alone, wouldn't be able to fall into a psychosis because they would never be, far from some caregiver. You know what I mean? But what I'm talking about, like, that's what anti-federalism means to me. It's like not that you don't take care of your neighbors, but that you only take care of your neighbors. And then your larger neighbors, that follows as a secondary. And then the country, that follows as a tertiary. You know what I mean? But you're always taking care of your... Yeah.
In the United States, they give people a lot of freedom. And... Yeah. You have the freedom to be homeless if you want to, freedom if you want to have a home. But the vast majority of people who are homeless in America tend to have mental illness, or just or on drugs. Is that like that 1% that just fell on hard times, that don't want to be homeless? They lost a job, got divorced, lost a house to a fire or something. Just to set them unfortunate circumstances.
Oh, for sure,
but I said, the vast majority, drug users. Mental health, black mental health. They don't want to take their medicines. They don't want to be strapped down. They don't want to be in the hospital.
Yeah.
We have only a certain amount of laws that allow us to keep someone who is at least mentally ill in a hospital for a certain amount of time. Force them to take medicine, and then when they're deemed normal, they act like they go back on the street. And what do? They don't take their medicine again. And it's back. It's the same. Like, it's an infinite circle.
It's an infinite circle. And even here in Canada, like, I remember, and it's the similar kind of laws of when someone's in need, you can't force them to take help. Whereas I had a couple neighbors when I was in Ottawa, and then we got to be friends. Like, we were right neighbors, and we would drink together and whatnot. And we ended up coming back to Montreal. I split up with my ex. It was amicable in the end, but, we moved away from there. In the end, they fell into more and more hard times. Like, already he was having a hard time with a job, but they got into more and more drugs. It ended up being really hard drugs, like crack and like just really hard shit, right?
It's the same here. Heroin, crack, cocaine,
And that shit went bad. Like, he burned all sorts of bridges with his family, which is fairly well off, and they bought him a corner store. He ended up not burning it to the ground, but like metaphorically burning it to the ground. It was bad. It was bad news. Like, he was kind of a spoiled brat, and then ended up being like at least somewhat abusive to her. I don't know the entire story, but you know what I mean? Like, they split up, and I ended up getting calls from both of them, especially from her. I got 4 times a suicide call.
Oh, man.
Yeah, like, seriously, like, where I just took a bottle of pills. It's done. One time it was like, tell the police I'm like dressed in this color clothing. It was like that kind of shit. Like, it was just, and I would text her and text her again the next day. And I was in a whole different city, like 2.5 hours away, right? So the next morning I'm like, hey, what the fuck, right? Like, can I drive to freaking Ottawa and drive around? And so it was like fucked up. And then she would respond to me 3 days later, like, this and that. And one time I was in Ottawa because I would go back there to work sometimes, and she was in town and she texted me. I'm like, okay, oof. I had to like solidify myself because I would never invite her to my place in Montreal. Someone told me, well, it was my ex actually, that she'd already, like, this one had already ripped off, like, stolen stuff from my ex. After we moved to Montreal, we were both in contact, but my ex had broken contact with her because she'd just stolen things and, just a total bitch. And so I was very wary of her taking advantage of me, right? But this one time I was in Ottawa and she called out for help and I'm like, okay, I'm going to drive you to the hospital. We'll check you in. But because she checked in voluntarily, and it was a 3-day thing.
Yeah, they check out voluntarily.
I left. She was gone by the next day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's the same kind of laws. But like, what else was I going to do, right? And I'm a dick. Well, I feel like a dick in a certain sense because, again, I came from this community where, someone who's been abused, I'm sure she's been abused, but at the same time, she's going to come into my place and steal my shit. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I'm going to help you, but here's my barriers. But coming from a small town, you wouldn't do that. You would like, okay, I'm going to call her brother. I'm going to call her cousin. I'm going to call someone to put her up. But at this point, I'm just like, no, I'm sorry. I'm going to take you to the hospital. And she called me again. Her husband also called me with a suicide note one time, but her 4 times. Fucked up, I tell you. Like it was a big drug problem. They needed help. He had burned all his bridges. She only had her mother, but her mother she'd fucked her mother over, obviously, several times. But it was like, what do you do with these people? What do you do? Like, how do you deal with people? Yeah, sorry, that was my big spiel. I'm gonna put myself on mute again.
Making the same point like 3 times already. But here's the thing, too, that I've learned: you can only help someone who wants to help themselves. That's one. Mm-hmm. 2. I've never seen someone on drugs, at least, who didn't want help until they reached absolute rock bottom. Mm. And that might be for someone who lost a home, lost their kids in the custody battle, got divorced, lost their job. Whatever rock bottom is for that particular person, then they want help. Then they try to get better. And 3, I wouldn't put anybody up in my own house if they say they want help, but then, they would... Then they do things like that. They steal from you. Yeah. They go back to their own drug use. They take the drugs. Now I had a friend who did that too. Who lived with me. He took drugs into my house. I kicked him out after that. But and it wasn't the cocaine and pot. So it wasn't really low level stuff. But you can't help people who don't want to help themselves. Mm-hmm. And when they want to help themselves, they'll go into a drug rehab. They'll get off the drugs themselves, and they'll change their life around. Not that it's an easy thing to do. I've heard from heroin addicts that it was easier to stop heroin than to stop smoking. Mm-hmm. So when you're in drug rehab, they let you smoke, but they don't let you do anything else, obviously. But it's hard, and when you start. And I don't see drug use as a disease. I see it as a choice. Because these people decided, let me get high, see what it's like. Mm-hmm. And they went into bigger stuff and harder stuff and more drugs. Mm-hmm. And they got into this whole circle of, let me take more and more and more and get higher, higher, higher. And it is what it is. I don't see it as a disease. I see it as a choice.
Mm-hmm. No, and I hear you. And I definitely hear you. No, and I really do. Because I think that there's certain people like this buddy of mine, that fell into that. It was a choice. Like he had a choice to be a solid stand-up member of his family or want to live a party life and play a guitar or something. It was a choice, and then right. at the same time, like again, like you say, I wouldn't put up someone who came to that point that actually hit rock bottom and realized, shit, this is rock bottom. And again, maybe you saw one of your friends. He was there.
Yeah.
He was there, but it was like, holy shit, man, you're not shaved, you're not what, like I can't take you up in my house. Like for me, and again, maybe as a socialist Canadian or something, but to have those halfway houses, as I said to my friend, like as I said to her, I was like, here's a list, and I texted her a list of all the halfway houses in Ottawa and Gatineau. So for us, that's in 2 different provinces. Like you have a list of shit in 2 different states, right? Because the city crosses state lines. It's like, no, but she says, oh no, but I can't go there. I'm like, that's freaking 7 places you could go. Don't tell me you burned the bridges with all those places. And if you do tell me you burned the bridges with 7 women's shelters, no, maybe not 7, maybe it was 5. Sorry, it was 5 women's shelters. If you manage to fucking piss them off enough that they ban you for life, whoa, I'm not taking you into my house. I'm sorry. But I gave her all the stuff. It's like people that ask me on the street, It's like, can you give me a meal? I'm like, wow, here's a place that gives you a free meal every time you go. You know what I mean? And that's the sort of thing, like, maybe it's socialist, but it's like, here's the places that are safe for you. A woman's shelter, in the case of my friend. I'm glad women's shelters exist. That's what I'm saying. So that I'm not going to take in every freaking madam that comes to me and she's like begging me. I'm like, fuck, are you the one at rock bottom? Or are you the one that's trying to fucking steal my shit, right? You know what I mean?
Here's what America is, and especially places like New York City, although a lot of people are moving out. We are a capitalist society with socialist programs for those who are down in their luck, right? So we have like people like me, not doing great. Medicaid, food stamps, Section 8 housing, food stamps. What else we got? No, I don't remember. We got programs to lift people off their feet to get back, to a place in society where they can be self-sufficient. And that's the point of these socialist programs. It's not to like other countries. I don't know what country was. Finland, I think it was, that wanted to institute a guaranteed income for every citizen. Tried it for a year. They went bankrupt, failed. They stopped it. Yeah. So that doesn't work either. So you have to be a producer. You can't have a population with over 50% not producing anything and the other half supporting the other, There has to be a majority of people who are producing.
And the people that can produce...
people out there who don't know, when I'm talking about producing, I'm sorry, Fraser, who don't know what I mean about producing, is you own a business, you hire employees, or you are an employee yourself working for another company. Whether you're working for the state or a private company, it's all the same. You're still a producer.
Yeah, I agree. And I really agree with you, because that's and to maximize every individual's capacity to produce in one way or another. Like, I think we talked about that before, like that you had skills, you have skills in different things, but because of, wait, am I getting this right? Because of and there's certain costs per month that come on, what is it, Medicaid?
Medicaid, food stamps, welfare,
but that as soon as you,
housing.
But it was like, as soon as you started working, like if you worked 15 hours a week, you would lose like $20,000 a month or something. No, it's ridiculous.
Right, it's a sliding scale. You're right. It's on a sliding scale.
It was on a ridiculous sliding scale that was like anti-motivational. Whereas, and again, different ways, and now, especially in terms of like how to do work in different ways that they're trying to imagine now, it's like how to maximize everyone's potential. But as you say, if you give everyone a guaranteed wage, okay, it goes bankrupt. Okay, let's find the spot where we can motivate everyone to work at their maximal. Like you could be an educator, for instance, in mechanics, without any problem in the modern, not without any problem. I mean, you would have to take training in how to give Zoom training courses or something like this. But how you could be maximizing your potential in any economy, and how to promote that system rather than just saying, you know what, everyone gets $3,000 a month. Fuck it. Do whatever you want. Of course the system's going to go bankrupt, right? That's a ridiculous thing. Maybe it was Denmark. I think, what you said, Finland? Well, I think it was Denmark.
Finland, maybe it was Denmark. I'm not quite sure where it was.
It was it was ridiculous though. Yeah.
But as you were talking about the sliding scale too, people who are on SSI can only make $768 a month on top of what SSI gives them. Now, in New York City, minimum wage is $15 an hour. And I calculated this. It's 8 hours worth of work every week. No one's going to hire someone for 8 hours of work a week to give them like that little bit of pay.
And you agree that like the system you're on is like anti-motivational. Like it's a problematic system. If it could say, hey, Frank, what do you know? If someone would call you up and say, hey, Frank, what do you know? We need people that know things. Like there's freaking, there was a site that used to do that. It would pay people like 10 cents a view to give educational videos. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know if they do that anymore, but it was so minimal that people couldn't even make minimum wage. But that kind of idea where you say, you could make a teacher's wage if you do teaching videos. You know, like just, you don't even have to get out of the house, fuck. You know, we just need your knowledge, right?
And even for a better example, there's people who don't want to get off welfare. They have it as a living. But there was a woman here a couple of years ago in New York City who has, I think, a 5-bedroom apartment with a big screen TV, all funded by the city because she's on welfare and she doesn't want to get out of it.
She doesn't want to go.
And she got like 8 kids or something like that. Like that's one of those big things.
Yeah.
Like the more kids you have, the more welfare, food stamps, financial help you get from the city and state.
Yeah.
So they motivate you to have kids that, especially the men, to have kids that they don't even take care of.
And that's that thing that we get back to, and I've got to ask the other people, I'm like, there's no better motivation than financial motivation.
I know.
But if there was, like, what could we imagine as another motivation? And it's, again, to dig certain people out of the rock bottom that we talked about. How do you dig those people out when all they see is, like, pointlessness, everyone rejected them, all I have is a drug. That's the only thing I could, you know, like how to dig that person out without.
Here's why.
You know.
Well, here's why socialism fails every time. You can have 3 different people. Socialism wants equality of outcome, right?
Yeah.
So you give each person, 3 people, $10,000.
Yeah.
One might pay all his bills off. Second one's going to blow it on one women song. Third one might open a business. You know?
Yeah. No, so that's it. And
it's 3 different people, 3 different ways to spend the money. One is going to blow it. The other 2 are going to make good with it.
No, that's it too. Like
capitalism.
Go ahead.
With capitalism, we want equality of opportunity. So you have the same education programs. The same ability to go to work. The same ability to make the same wages. Not everyone is going to be the same aptitude, have the same skills, or make the same type of money. There are people who are going to be in labor. They're going to be people in business. There are going to be people in service. You know.
Yeah, it's going to be it. Yeah, and that's it too. Like to accept that and not to see it as a bad thing either. I remember when I left home. And I kept
so much motivation. If you have no motivation to work, you're not going to work. You're not going to do anything.
That's it. And to motivate each their own. But I remember when I came out of, I grew up in a small town where, you know, there's teachers, there's high school teachers. But other than that, no one's really highly educated. Or there's a few people maybe. I don't know. But I remember when I said, like, I went through the high school, like, you know, you go for what you want to be. And I said, well, maybe you'd be good fit for an electrician. Because I have a very calculating mind, maybe. Yeah. And I got good grades in math and these kind of things. And that's what I focused on. And then I got a job on a farm after high school, and I got a job on a dog food factory plant anyways. But after getting fired from the dog food plant, which is terrible, anyways, whatever. But
how do you get fired for a dog food plant? Oh, God.
That's a whole other story. But they said I got convinced that I had to go back to university. I got good grades in math, so I could probably get into university, at least the University of Calgary. Okay. It wasn't a high grade university, but it was a low grade university. But again, like it was 10 years later that I saw that electricians are making way more than I do because I went back for a second degree. It was like because tradespeople were undervalued all those years when I was encouraged. Well, I told that my expertise could be used as an electrician, and I really still like working with my hands. I build Legos all the time, but they said go into math because you go to university and you need a degree. Actually, electricians, if I would have started my ticket after high school, if I would have, focused myself on that instead of going to 6 years or 7 years or 8 years of university, man, like all that debt compared to all that rate, it's that sliding. What does society need? And like to be happy, I would have been happy as an electrician as I would have been a mathematician. You know what I mean?
Speaking of you speak electrician, funny you say that. My best friend passed away a couple of years ago. He was an electrician, and he knew he wanted to be an electrician since he was in high school. He started as what they say an apprentice, became a mechanic. Mechanic is basically the highest you can reach in the field. $52 an hour. That was his wage. Unbelievable. Yeah. $25 an hour as an apprentice. I'd be happy at $25 an hour, but for $52 an hour, it's good fucking money.
And you asked how I got fired from the dog food plant. We ended up, me and a friend at like 18 years old, like the minute I was allowed to move out, I moved out. Me and a friend rented a place. It was $225 a month, the whole place. It was a trailer, like a mobile trailer. $225 a month. It was fucking beans, right? In the town where like nothing happened, so we were the party place. But he was a carpenter. He already started his carpenter ticket before he finished high school. And so at the time I got fired from the dog food plant, I think I was getting like $7.50 an hour and he was getting $15 an hour. It was like I was already like in a losing scale. I was just a basic laborer getting like minimum wage plus $1. It was nothing. But he already halfway through his ticket, he was at 15 and then he would go to 18 and then 20. Like, anyways.
Yeah, you go into the trades. I mean, it's backbreaking work. Yeah. But if you can do it, it's not for like people on my age, our age, 40, 50 years old. People start out in the 20s do it, and they quit in their 40s and 50s because they break their backs, literally breaking their backs doing it.
For a lot of those ones, yeah, I knew some bricklayers in Montreal because Montreal is built on bricks. They break their backs. Carpenters a little bit too. I don't know electricians though. I always said, and I had like my ex that I broke up with this year. It was like, and we only went out a year, but anyways, she said like, what would you do if you did with your life? And I said, well, maybe I would actually be an electrician. She was like, why not? Like an electrician. Again, maybe there's some heavy things. I don't know.
Well, it's heights too, but
you take your apprentice to hoist the big spools of wire, right? I don't know. What else do you got to do? You got to check current lengths. I don't know. But I always thought that maybe I could be an electrician in the end. I don't know. I haven't given up all hope.
One of my friends is a plumber, and you have to get under appliances in order to do a lot of this stuff. So you got to be somewhat of a contortionist, laying on your back, working, with your hands above your head. Not easy work, and then that's the hard part. Electrician, it's a lot of heights. Carpenter, you're dealing with a lot of sharp objects, and that's a hard skill.
That's true. Heights, I don't do good with.
Yeah. But anything that you can do as far as welding, carpentry, plumbing, electrician, you'll always have a job. You'll always have something to do. And those are recession-proof jobs.
I think so. Yeah, it's true. It's those local things that whatever we do, unless things fall into like total Mad Max anarchy, right? We're going to always need those local things. Even if things fall into like nation by nation, we're going to need electricians, welders, carpenters, like those things you need built locally. Maybe there will be a recession in those things.
I'm not a mathematician.
But everything export? I mean, fucking mathematicians. Who needs mathematicians? I don't know. I was thinking myself as necessary, but shit, I better learn electricity. I don't know.
Well, it's, my other friend works for Department of Finance. She's a tax collector, basically. Yeah. I don't know how necessary his job is, but collecting funds for the city, I guess, is necessary.
He's an accountant. I can answer that question.
What, Mike?
Here's Mike.
His basic skills are an accountant.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have to work for the city. He can work for any company that needs an accountant.
That's true.
To do their taxes.
That's true.
To do their payroll taxes. To do their company taxes, corporate taxes, anything. So he can get a job anywhere either. That's in a recession-proof job too.
My brother, I don't know if you heard it, but his basic skill is an accountant. So any company, private company that needs the books to be looked at, paying taxes, anything like that, he can go anywhere and get a job.
You can get a job.
So he's got a skill that's necessary.
And that's it. To be I think those are it. A mechanic, maybe a mechanic, like you say, knowing cars. Shit, man, imagine if Mad Max happens. You remember the guy that built like the most awesome car that Mad Max ended up taking?
Yeah.
Freaking mechanic, like it was just genius. That was well. Again, anyways. His end wasn't too good. But anyway, sorry, but it was like the mechanic in the world of Mad Max would be freaking. You would be a prince, right? You would be a priest. I don't know.
Well, we were supposed to talk about the Fifth Amendment.
No, we were supposed to talk about Georgia. I thought. Sorry, I was gonna Google Georgia. Shit, I followed like what the predictions were, but I haven't at all followed the results. Do you know what happened?
So as we stand now, 95% reporting both Republicans have won.
Okay, that was kind of predicted, I think.
It was.
It's a Republican state kind of thing, no?
Yes, Mike. Both Republicans are ahead. They both won.
What's their names? Perdue and Warnock.
David Perdue.
No, I have 1-1. What am I? Wait. Associated Press says David Perdue and Raphael Warnock. But they said...
Both,
Warnock is blue. He's the blue one.
Uh-oh.
But it's good for the Republicans, right? If the Democrats wanted to win, they would have had to win 2 of 2. Of the Senate, I mean, the whole Senate is up for grabs. But Democrats had to win both.
No, that was done a couple of months ago in November. This is a runoff election because it was close.
No, I know, but it was supposed to be it's right now 50 for the Republicans and 48 for the Democrats in the Senate. And the up 2 seats, if the Democrats win 2 seats, then it's 50-50 and the vice president breaks the tie. But if it's 49-51, the vice president isn't worth shit. It's the Republicans that win the Senate. If they win 1 or 2 seats, the Republicans win the Senate, and it's okay. No?
Yeah, well.
Even if
you got it right.
Or you want to win them both, or you think the both are necessary?
I want the Republicans to win.
I don't have even a horse in the race, but I understand that you want at least 1 or 2 Republicans to win. Even if 1, you're going to be happy, right? Or I don't know. You say.
Yes, yeah. Well, the balance of power would be even, I guess.
No, it would be that. Oh yeah, even that the House of Representatives is Democrat.
At the House level, yeah.
The House is Democrat, and the Senate is Republican, and the executive is Democrat. But if the Senate is Republican, that allows for a balance. Oh yeah. I always said, like you said that the election, or no, not you said. Other people said the election was stolen, but I thought like the Republicans won the election. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like if you look at it, the Senate is the most important. And I never thought that...
No, the Senate is not more than... I think I said they're both equally important.
They're equally important, but I mean, if you were to lose an election, that means that you lost the presidency, the House, and the Senate. But if you win...
We did lose the House.
No, the House was already Democrat. Republicans gained in the House. Republicans gained in the House and kept the Senate. I mean, that's a win. No? I don't understand how it's a loss. Again, yeah, Biden's there, but he's crippled if the Senate is Republican.
If the Senate is Republican, he's crippled.
That's it.
If the Senate becomes Democrat.
So how is it a loss? Like they were never going to win 2 out of 2 in Georgia. Whatever happens tonight, I never thought they were going to win 2 out of 2. It looks like it's going to be 1 out of 2, maybe. Wait, what is this one saying? I think
you never know.
It's like it's within like 0.5% on the one that they're winning, so it's probably 2 out of 2. The other ones, both are.
So it's not even like we have a majority of anybody right now.
Actually, both are pretty close. But one is out by 10,000, and the other one looks to be winning by 25,000. 10,000, 25,000. That's probably pretty safe. I think.
See, the less than 1% was why they had a runoff election. Yeah. And it seems like it's happening again.
I think that's right. I think they said something like, no, I think they said within, because I tried to look it up today. It was freaking a gong show, but within 0.5%, at least there's a recount. Maybe not a runoff, but a recount if it's within 0.5%. It looks like both of them might be within 0.5%. Good God. This thing's going to go on forever. You guys have your elections forever. We finish ours on one night. What the hell is wrong with you?
This has been a problem for the last couple of years. All the
pandemic
because of all there's just so much corruption in the election process right now.
I said that other people that like the one good thing that maybe both sides, I think both Republicans and Democrats may agree on, is that we have to tighten up the election system. Each one for a different reason. Like the Democrats will say we have to tighten it up so that someone like Trump can't try and cheat. And the Republicans will say we have to tighten it up. What I mean tighten it up is like only paper ballots. Every ballot is overlooked by 3 or 4 independent parties. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like tighten it up. That both Democrats and Republicans should agree on that, I think, right? Like you would agree on that, right?
40 years.
But you agree.
Democrats were calling election fraud.
But you agree, no?
There was no election fraud.
No. But I mean, do you agree with what I just said?
Oh, no. I think the Republicans would want a tighter election security, not Democrats.
But Democrats, what if Democrats said, yeah, we want a tighter election security because we think Trump is trying to cheat? You know, they're saying Trump is trying to cheat. That's what they're saying. I was looking on freaking videos. Shit. They're saying Trump is trying to cheat. They're saying, you know what they say too? You know what they say. I'm sure you've seen the videos where it's like Trump said after the 2016 election that 5 million, I don't know, some amount of million votes were counted extra, especially in California. There was a scandal. He started a lawsuit. And in the end, not a lawsuit, but an investigation committee, because he had the House and the Senate and the presidency. He started an investigation committee about 3 million votes that were stolen in 2016. In the end, there was nothing, and he ended up stopping the investigation. So there was nothing. And so the point of the 2016 was that Hillary won by 3 million votes. And he says, no, there's 3 million votes stolen. All my point is that both sides are saying the same thing. It was like I smiled the other day and you called me on it. But in my ears, coming from not an entirely unbiased position, but at least coming from an outsider's position, both sides are saying the same thing right now, that both sides were calling fraud in 2016. The Democrats were calling fraud because of Russian interference, and Trump was calling fraud because of fraudulent ballots being called in the 2016 election. He said 3 million fraudulent ballots were cast. They did a whole investigation at the federal level. He controlled the Senate, the House, and the presidency, and they found nothing. And so it happened again in 2020. And so I have some doubts. And so I have some doubts on the fraudulent claims, but I have no doubt that having a more secure election would be better for both sides. Like if I have these doubts about Trump, you know what I mean? Trump called foul in 2016. Trump's calling foul again in 2020. I have doubts about Trump's intentions. I'm just saying from an outsider position. I have doubts about the Democratic intentions as well. I'm not saying anything about that. But if I have doubts about Trump's intentions, I, as an outsider, would suggest having more oversight for each of the ballots. No fucking electronic only ballots. Paper only ballots. Why not? It takes a week to count. Who the fuck cares? At least you can find a signature. At least you can find the paper ballot at the end. And
well, like I said, there's no voter ID in America. There's nothing to secure the ballot. So anybody can come in vote any number of times, and that's exactly what happened.
But you understand what I'm saying. If I am someone who expressed what I just said, not that that's my entire position, But if I'm someone that expressed what I just said about doubts in Trump's intentions, I also would want a more secure ballot system in order to prove to Trump that no, there is no irregularities. If though in fact that they were trying to cheat on the election, if though in fact they do want dead people to vote, then I would expect that side to be against higher regulation or higher standards on elections. You know what I mean?
Democrats have been cheating on the elections. Let me tell you, Democrats have been cheating on the elections since Kennedy. 35,000 dead people voted in New Hampshire to elect Kennedy as president.
You see, I just haven't...
And this is documented.
But documented is like, these days documented is like said on Facebook. You know what I mean? Like if...
Well, it's part of history. Everybody knows about it.
No, but you say everyone knows about it, but it's like these things that are happening in the current election. For me, again, like what I get frustrated about is that there's 60 different lawsuits. Like there's a lot of things said on different news networks. Everything, there's a lot of rumors going around. But once it gets in front of a federal judge, all of a sudden it becomes less severe. You remember what Giuliani said? He says like, no, we're not talking about fraud. He said that when he got in front of a federal judge after saying in front of the camera that there's fraud. And for me, that's very telling. Once you get in front of a federal judge and there's a possibility of anyone testifying in front of a federal judge or any kind of judge, a state judge even, any kind of judge, you testify in front of a state judge, if you're lying, you're in deep shit. And Giuliani said there was fraud when he was on the camera. When he was in front of the judge, he said there was no fraud. And that, for me, that was really, and a lot of those, they fired that other judge that was saying, or that other lawyer that was saying a lot of things. They didn't even want her to show up in court. Like, these sort of things are telling to me. I'm just saying, I don't know anything about the case. I want to see something proven. I don't want to just see something saying on Facebook. I want to see something in court.
We all want to see proof. We all want to have justification.
That's it. That's all I want. And then I'm with them. But as of yet, every time I see it, it's like, okay, they'll say it, but they won't say it in front of a judge. And every single one of these cases that went in front of a judge, it's been rejected as not enough evidence, not enough of this, not enough of that. They'll show up on different news networks with a stack of papers. But where are those stack of papers when you go in front of the judge? I don't show me a stack of papers. I don't need to know about a stack of papers. Yeah, I don't know nothing about a stack of papers. Don't tell me about a stack of papers. Tell the judges. I don't know. The judges are again weirdly. Maybe it's the same in Canada. I don't actually know. But the judges are elected by the people or something like that in the States. Not elected by the people, but elected by the governor that's of the people. Kind of elected by the people. A little bit.
Well, on that note,
but you know
I guess we can do it next one.
What is happening on this election? Oh, sorry. Yeah, no. We said we'd talk to her for like 40 minutes, and we would talk about the election.
It's been a while.
It's 50-50 now.
We talked about other stuff.
It's beautiful, though. I love that about it, because sometimes, and I know, like you and I, because I said, even if I'm right-wing Canadian, that means I'm like socialist American. That's what that means. Like when you said Kamala Harris is socialist, I was like, what the fuck? I've seen her policies. That's totally right-wing. But it was just that relativism, you know what I mean? Which is weird, but it's kind of weird, but at the same time, whatever. I mean, we can get past that and have a discussion, in tangent of that, but about other shit too. I mean, like you say.
Right, I'm kind of hungry.
I understand. I understand.
I know I'm a fat fucking man. I want to eat.
You gotta eat. You gotta feed. You gotta feed the beast. No, I'm just...
Okay, so you want to do the Fifth Amendment on Saturday?
We can do the Fifth Amendment on Saturday. Do you want to do something tomorrow night? Maybe 10:30?
If anything happens tomorrow, maybe. And I just say...
It has to happen, though. Maybe it'll be...
Like I said, I come home, I have to feed my dog, I have to feed us. And by the time that happens, it's probably 11:30, 12 o'clock, and a little late for me. Okay.
Let's do the Fifth Amendment next time. But did you... Oh, maybe... Oh, no, you weren't in on it. But Sean, sparked up suddenly.
Really? What did he do?
What I said to him was, hey, like, well, what I said to him, and which ended up not being the thing, I said, hey, Frank and I are going to talk about David Wood tomorrow night, which means tonight, and then the election on Wednesday night, because I was confused. I thought the election was on Wednesday. And he comes back, he talks about, different apologists or different things, and he was talking to some moderate Muslims. He says, try talking about this and that. He introduced me to someone he was talking about, which was, like I haven't heard from him in 8 months or something. But no, then he introduced me to someone else. He says, hey, why don't you have a conversation with so-and-so? He was still busy with his son and waiting for, there's apparently a custody trial in mid-January.
Oh, boy.
So he's got full custody for now, but he's kind of worried, his ex was kind of out of balance, as it were. So he didn't want his son to go back with her. But it seemed like because of COVID restrictions, maybe it would be delayed, which at least would be, I don't know, at least a delay. There would be he wouldn't have to make a decision right now, as it were. Or not make a decision, but, shit is fucked up during COVID anyways. And we might be going to do a full lockdown in Quebec, as we did last... Whoops, something fell. But as we did last springtime, we went into a full lockdown where like the...
It's 99.9% recoverable. They're doing the wrong things.
It's a weird thing, but we might have to go back to like in the springtime where we had homeschooling, which we haven't done since September. But anyways, we might have to go into homeschooling. So at least he doesn't have to make that decision in the middle of those kind of restrictions. Like at least if everything closes down, maybe he's put on unemployment or something like this for a couple months, but at least he doesn't have to worry about his son and worry about different daycare things and worry about different, before he was saying he had to switch a job so he didn't have to work weekends so that he could keep his son on the weekends. Anyways, it was a whole messed up thing. But so what were you asking? How is Sean? Did you ask how is Sean?
No, I was asking. I wanted to go.
Oh, you said you wanted to go. Yeah, sorry. I was telling you how Sean was. Anyways, well, it was good talking to you.
So I won't pick it up again Saturday, I guess.
Saturday for David Wood, you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fifth Amendment's one too.
Or Fifth Amendment. Sorry, yeah. Sorry, you just said that. Sorry, Saturday for the Fifth Amendment. Still got David Wood on the mind.
Some of the amendments are very self-explanatory. It doesn't need a lot of breaking down. Some take much longer to break down.
But I took some notes on the 5th anyways. No, it was interesting. Okay, Saturday on the 5th, yeah.
Okay, I'm taking the 5th on that. Take it easy, Fraser. I'll talk to you later.
Talk to you later, bye.